CATT-NW Season 1, Episode 13, Creating Accessible Math with the Microsoft Word Equation Editor.
CATT, Center for Assistive Technology Training Northwest.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to CATT-NW. This week, we have Nick Leone, who is the Assistant Director of the Expanded Core Program at the Indiana School for the Blind. Nick is going to show us how to create accessible math in Microsoft Word using the equation editor. Super excited. So, okay, the floor is yours, Nick. Thank you.
All right, welcome everybody. Let me go ahead and share my screen and we'll get started. All right, so what we are exploring today is ways to make accessible math in Word using the equation editor. So if this kind of leads off of Allison Mello's presentation last week. So if you haven't watched that, I encourage you to go back to it, but I'll give just a little reminder of kind of the why this is necessary. So we have an equation, a couple of equations down here at the bottom, or here at the top of my Word document. And these are ones that are not formatted using Microsoft's equation editor. So if we listen to the first one here, we have 2x dash 7 equals 23. So it should say 2x minus 7 equals 23. And then the next one down, which has an exponent, is even worse. 2x superscript and superscript plus y equals 15. So both of these were just formatted with entering text directly into and using the superscript keys, that kind of thing, so it doesn't read properly as math. It's not going to display on a Braille display as Nemeth content or UEB math, depending on which type you're using. Then a little further down, we have the same equations I've formatted using the equation editor. So this one identifies the minus sign as a minus sign. And then 2x squared plus y equals 15.
And Nick, we're not getting any sound, just so you know. I'm not.
Sorry about that. Let me double check the sharing settings.
Okay, thanks.
Screen sharing meeting. CATT-NW demo.
Yay.
Edit.
All right. Sorry about that, guys. So I'll just quickly show the first one.
2n superscript plus y equals 15.
So we're at 2x superscript plus y equals 15.
Math content 2x squared plus y equals 15.
And then this one's the one that's formatted properly.
Volume up.
All right. So for creating these, the main key command that you need to know for actually creating the equation editors is Alt plus equals. So there is a guide in the resources that goes through how to create all this content, gives a lot of tips. There's a couple ways that you can go through for this. So once you press Alt equals
selected math content. Volume up, volume up, volume up, volume up, volume up, volume up.
Then it creates our equation box. At this point, a lot of the stuff that you might do on a regular basis can be entered directly into this. So for example, the first equation that we did here, just something simple with an exponent and common operations. You can do x plus y
equals
15. All that's going to format with no problem without using any of the special characters.
15, enter.
If we want to do something a little bit more advanced, that's where we can, navigate to some of the menus. And then there's also some other options for us to create those.
Alt equals selected.
Creating a new equation. When you enter into the equation menu, there's a ribbon at the top where you can access all of the different equation editor features. So if you, just like all the ribbons, if you know the shortcuts to get through it, it's a little quicker, but you can also navigate through the menu. So to get into it, it's Alt J-E. And then you can navigate to the different sections. So for example, E takes you to equations.
Equation, built dash in, area of circle, surface area of a.
And what this has is kind of common equations, like the area of the circle or Pythagorean theorem, something like that. It has those already built in with the variables that you can insert into the equation editor or into the document. And then you
Escape,
can
alt upper
also
ribbon, tools group,
access
equation
by
submenu,
pressing
1 of 2
Q,
Q, equation symbols.
or again, navigating to it with arrows and tab, you can access the different symbols. So these are the special characters that you might need. We have plus or minus.
Equation symbol
We have
infinity
the
button, 2 of
infinity
71.
symbol, things like does not equal. And then if you navigate
Menu,
up,
gallery filters group, basic math sub menu,
we have a
basic
menu
math, menu space, basic math button.
that has several different options, Greek letters, operators, geometry, so you can navigate through those and find specific ones that are maybe based on a topic.
Upper ribbon, gallery, leaving upper ribbon.
So for this example, I'm going to show something that, maybe is a little bit more needed, something like fractions. So while still in this equation editor, we're going to press F to navigate to the fraction menu.
Equation structure, stacked fraction button, 1 of 4.
It gives us a couple different options, but we're going to just use the main stacked fraction option.
Ribbon, CATT-NW demo doc dash word, edit.
And then it inserts our template into there.
And numerator.
So navigating with arrows, it goes up to the numerator where we can enter in
3.
Our numerator. It doesn't
content 3 over empty.
It doesn't necessarily say denominator, but we navigate down and we can find the end part
4.
and put in 4. And then we have 3/4 here.
Blank. End numerator math content 3/4.
So frankly, it can be a little cumbersome. So fortunately, even with these, there's a quicker way to do a lot of this. Okay, so instead of
undo,
using some of these, what we're going to do is
shift enter, escape, select all, select math what is
sorry, hold on.
Blank.
We're going to navigate using, or we're going to create these using the math autocorrect symbols. Okay, so a lot of these, for example, with fractions, we can just use the slash and it'll create a fraction. So again, going into alt equals, we'll do 3 /
over mat end denominator mat blank selection deleted, alt equals selected
3 / 4. And then when I press space, it's automatically going to autocorrect that and format it into an equation. Now, unfortunately, we don't get a whole lot of feedback from JAWS at that point, but when we go back and review the equation,
end equation 3/4,
we can hear that it's formatted as an equation. This can be done with all kinds of different things. Also in the resources, there's a full list of the autocorrect commands. So let's say we also wanted to include an exponent, and maybe in this one, we'll just kind of randomly put in a square root as well. One thing that I will note as we're kind of navigating through this, a lot of times you have to navigate this like you would navigate by words or by elements. So if you simply press the right arrow, what actually happened here, visually, again, the JAWS feedback is a little limited on this section, but visually it actually takes me out of the equation editor. And so if I were to start typing stuff at this, nothing's going to happen at this point.
End numerator math content.
So what we're going to do instead is we're going to press Control right arrow.
3/4.
Until we get after that. Now, a lot of this, I know Eli's gonna go into using the Braille display later. A lot of this is much better navigating when you can enter Nemeth or at least follow along in the Nemeth. But for this, we have to make sure that we're at the end of the equation. So we hit Control right arrow until we hear the end of the equation. And then we know we're still in the equation editor. So if we want to do an exponent, we'll do plus x. And then for the exponent, we're going to use the caret. So shift 6.
Caret.
2. And then again, either Some of them you have to press space to autocorrect. In this case, if we start typing, it will. But I'm going to go ahead and press space, and then we can see it autocorrects to x squared.
Start base x math content. Blank. Start base x math 3/4. 3/4 plus x squared. 3/4 plus x squared. End equation.
And then we're back at the end of the equation now. So that one's a pretty simple autocorrect code. Some of the ones can get much more complicated. So if we want to add a square root here, for example, then we would actually press / and we would type the code. It's going to be SQRT for square root.
SQRT.
Oh, did I do that one? Actually, sorry, I think it's
equals vertical bar,
backward slash SQRT. And then once I hit space, it turns into the square root symbol, and then we can put in whatever we're going to put in there. So we'll put in 36.
3/4 plus x squared comma equals square root of 36.
It all reads properly, and it's going to be accessible in Nemeth on a Braille display. Also, while I'm on this example, because this is something that we might be solving for X, once the student actually goes to work on it, the way equation editor works is you're going to work one line at a time. If you hit enter, it's just going to create a new line, and it's not going to create a new line with math content. So if we're doing a multi-step equation, what we're actually going to do is get to the end of the equation, and then we're going to hit shift plus enter.
Shift enter, selected, math content.
That creates a brand new equation box, and then we can start going through and solving for X, or whatever the variable might be. All right. So that's kind of the basics on how to create the equation using either the equation editor ribbon or keyboard entry. We have some other options on how we want to input equations. Later on, there'll be some more Tech in 20 sessions that include ways to use Math OCR tools. But Math Viewer is actually built into JAWS and has a very simple way that we found that we can copy equations into Word. So I pulled up in a separate tab, and hopefully I shared it.
Task switching, JAWS equations with variables on both sides.
Did I share it properly so you guys can see Khan?
Yeah, looks good.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so I have Khan Academy up. So just real quick, back to Allison's presentation. All of this is dependent on math that is format accessibly. In this case, we're talking about Math ML. So for Khan Academy, they do format their equations with Math ML. And so I have, oh, why is that reading?
Stop share left parent alt plus F, task switching, equations with variables.
I'm not sure if the
equations with Khan Academy
refresh it real
Google
quick.
Chrome. Khan equations with
There we go.
equations with blank. P-R-O. Solve P math content period blank. 16 minus 3P equals 2/3 P plus 5 math content.
So I'm airing down through the equation that I have up. So on this site, we're going through, we found an equation. It says JAWS indicates that's math content. So we know that it's properly formatted. Again, this is one where we're solving for a variable. So we're looking to do this, but it's something that maybe our students would typically do on a Braille writer. The benefit here is if we access the Math Viewer, we can actually copy this content directly into Word. So to open up the Math Viewer, this is one of my favorite key commands. It's just enter.
Enter. Math Viewer equation navigation. To review the expression, use the arrow keys. Press insert plus H.
So that opens up the Math Viewer, which can give you some more detailed ways to view and access the equation. But for our purposes, we're not going to get into any of that. We're just going to simply copy this equation so we can manipulate it in Word. So if we hit Control-C.
Copy selection to clipboard.
I will note it doesn't matter which parts are highlighted, which parts you have the JAWS focus on. It's still going to copy the whole equation. So once you open it, you can just hit Control C, and then we're going to
Screen
shift back
sharing
to our
tasks
document.
equation Tekken20 demo doc dash word Tekken20 enter.
And then I'm going to create a new line, and I'm going to hit Control V.
Paste it from clipboard. Math type paste. Create a math type.
It gives us I left this on. You can adjust it so that you can remember the choice. For purposes of this, we want to use the OMML equation to paste it in instead of the math type one. And so we're
Create an
going
OMML
to
equation. OK button to activate. Press space bar.
hit enter to use the OMML equation.
Paste. Print view. Edit.
And it pastes it in already in the equation editor, just as it was on the website. So we'll go ahead and
5 plus P and 3 and
and we can navigate through all of this. And
math content 16 minus 3P equals 2/3 P plus 5.
Also, one kind of odd thing about the way the math content works with the math viewer too. Normally we use caps lock down arrow for maybe a read all. Caps lock up arrow for some reason is read all with math content. So if we want to read all of the equation at once, we're going to press caps lock or JAWS key and up arrow. And then again, now we have the equation in here and we can continue manipulating it to solve P in this equation.
N3 and P plus 5 and equation.
And then again, for that, we would hit Shift Enter.
Shift Enter. Select.
That creates a new equation. I think this is really workable for solving for variables too, because if we need to go back up,
content 16 minus 3P.
We can just press the up arrow to review what the different parts of the equation are and navigate back down
blank
with the down arrow and continue manipulating our equation. So. All right, the last thing I want to show is basically a formatting consideration for something. So
blank.
A little further down, I have
what is the value of x in the equation math content 2x?
A word problem. And so what I've done here with this word problem is it says, what is the value of x in the equation? And then in the sentence, I've entered in, I created the equation using alt equals. So it is math content, it is accessible, but when you actually get into working it, some of it's kind of problematic. So
and equation question 2x plus 6.
So what I did was on the same line, I wrote in the equation. And then I put a question mark afterwards, how you might typically kind of see an equation like this formatted in a digital worksheet.
X math content.
Where it gets tricky is even if we follow all the steps properly, so we get to the end of the equation, and I go ahead and try to use the technique that I just used before, which is Shift Enter to start solving for X.
Shift Enter selected math content.
We get really complicated things with formatting. In this case, it moved the question down. It oriented it to the left. I've had other cases where for whatever reason, even though I was at the end of the equation, it brought down some of the equation into the new one. And so it actually brought just the 2 down for some reason when I've tested it before. And so it just gets complicated with navigating through this. And then when I press up arrow,
what is the value of x?
I'm going back through the whole equation too to be able to actually access. I'd have to, control right arrow to actually get back to the equation. So instead, what I recommend a little lower, I have an example where I've formatted it still so that the math equation is in line. So we have
what is the value of x in the following equation?
What is the value of x in the following equation? And then below it
math
on a
content
new
2x
line,
plus 6 equals 12.
I put in the x value. So, or I put in the equation. So at this point, again, we're using control right arrow.
2x plus 6 comma equals 12. 2x plus 6, 2x plus 6, 2x blank.
And then I get to the end of the equation. We can hit Shift Enter.
Selected math content.
And then at this point, I can continue solving it. So again, for something like this, we can actually do 2x
plus 6
plus 6
dash 6
equals
2.
And so
12,
the
6.
benefit about this is we can have our students show all of our steps in the math content. Hit Shift Enter,
selected.
and we can keep going down that and showing all the solved steps for X. So, and again, if we forget one of the steps, we can just
Math
arrow
content.
back up and listen to that as need be or make edits. The advantage in this versus using a Braille writer is pretty great, because if there are some missteps, our students don't have to start over. They can delete a couple of these equations, fix it up, and continue on. All right, and I think that is it for my demo. In future demos, we'll show how to use some of the OCR for bigger worksheets instead of just problem by problem.
Wow, that was incredible, Nick. Thank you so much for that thoughtful demo. I love how you mentioned some of the information from Allison Mello's demo a couple weeks ago. And I mean, at least for myself, I know just watching this demo, it really was a lightning moment. Like, wow, we really need to know about Math ML. And as teachers of blind and low vision students, sometimes we don't understand the value of learning these more specific computer codes for math. And for anybody who is creating digital math out there, just knowing the value of having things in Math ML that we can copy and paste is really cool. So thank you so much for that demo. And hot tip about formatting at the end. That's great. So Nick, I would love it if you could save your demo document and send it to us. And then next week we'll have Eli demo how, as from the student side, using a screen reader and a Braille display, how a student might now access the beautiful accessible math that you have created. Thank you so much.
No problem.
All right, you guys. Well, that's it for this week's Tech in 20, where we meow at your tech needs. Thank you for joining us. At this time, I'll turn off the recording and we'll have just a few minutes of unrecorded Q&A. So hope to see you all again. Thanks.
CATT, Center for Assistive Technology Training Northwest,
is based at the Washington State School for the Blind, WSSB. Logos, WSSB and APH. The contents of this video were developed under a contract authorized by the Department of Education. However, these contents do not necessarily represent the policy of the Department of Education, and you should not assume endorsement by the federal government.